for your blessing upon this council. Help and prosper its work for the advancement and benefits of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established amongst us all. Amen.
Amen.
Manningham City Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri people as the traditional custodians of the land we now know as Manningham. We pay our respects to Wurundjeri elders past and present and value the ongoing contribution to the cultural heritage of Manningham. I welcome all members of the public here tonight to this council meeting who have come along tonight to observe proceedings. I would like to advise those present that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event that your voice and or image is broadcast. Manningham Council would also like to acknowledge the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. I also recognise and welcome councillor, any previous mayor or councillor of the city of Manningham or local member of parliament. All council meetings are controlled by a meeting procedure local law. I will introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda by calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of a motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on an item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendations in the report or propose amendments and supplementary motions. I'd like to draw attention to item 7 on tonight's agenda, public question time. Council recently adopted a new meeting procedure law, and as a result, a new procedure for public question time is now in place. Questions received by close of business on the day prior to the council meeting will be responded to verbally at the meeting. You may, of course, continue to submit a question on the night of the meeting. However, the question may be taken on notice if we do not have the information at hand to provide a meaningful response. Given that this is the first night of our new procedure, if there is anyone in the gallery who would like to ask a question, please provide your question to a council officer now. I would also stress that I will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing to the council through the normal channels. Item 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. Councillor Galbally is an apology for this evening's meeting. Prior notification of conflict of interest. There are no conflicts of interest. Confirmation of minutes. Confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Kleinert.
That the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 12th of December 2017 be confirmed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Presentations.
Mr. Mayor, perhaps we should vote on that one.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
I will get there. Okay. Before we move on, why don't we take a vote on that motion?
Which motion's that?
The motion that the minutes of ordinary meeting of council be held on the confirmed. Sorry, we won't take a vote. I'm getting there. It's been a long time. Okay. Councillor Kleiner, do you have anything to?
Nothing to add.
Councillor McLeish, would anyone else like to comment? Thank you. that motion will be put. Those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no presentations this evening, but I would like to recognise the recent Australia Day Awards, the following. OAM, Order of Australia Medal in the General Division, was given to one of our residents, former Mayor and Councillor Lionel Alamand, for service to the community and to local government. Miss Michelle Margaret Timms was awarded the AM for significant service to basketball as a competitor at the national and international level, as an Olympic athlete and as a mentor for women in sport. Mr. Robert Graham Matthews, Lower Templestowe, Victoria, for his service to cricket in Victoria. Mrs. Elise Mutton, Doncaster East, for service to education. Miss Julie Quinton, for service to the community of Warrandyte. Miss Aline Thompson, for service to youth through Scouts. And Mrs. Carolyn Vimpani of Doncaster East, for service to people with disabilities. Congratulations to all those people on behalf of all the councillors. Item 6, petitions. There are no petitions. Item 7, public question time. We have received 2 questions from Robin Bunting. Robin, would you like to come forward to the microphone, please? You have 2 minutes to make a brief introductory statement and then you can ask your question.
Sorry.
Yes, just wait. We'll just get your microphone on. Thank you.
Thank you. My questions tonight pertain to an owners corporation that I actually currently manage in the municipality of Manningham. It's on the corner of Short Street and Hepburn Road, and we have been basically trading as an owners corporation for a year. The actual owners corporation itself has been running with a committee running it, and they're finding it very difficult to keep governance in their car park. For those of you that are unaware, car parks are part of the stipulation for building permits, and we have to provide visitors car parking inside the building. We've come to the council have given us an agreement that will assist us with governance, and we have parking officers that attend the car park to actually book people that are illegally parking in the visitors car parks. My questions are, if an owners corporation holds an agreement with the council for governance over the visitors parking on site, would it be possible for our building manager to be deputised to assist the council officers in achieving a better governance and compliance level? We're really suffering in this property with people abusing the visitors car parking. My other question is, if this is not possible, would it be possible to have greater assistance with the issues of maintaining visitor parking on site with the current council offering? More regulation or more regulated visits and higher infringement ratio for offenders would really help us at the moment.
I'll ask the CEO to respond. Sorry. Robin, thank you for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for your questions, Robin. In answer to question number 1, unfortunately this is not possible, as the issuing officer of infringements is required to be an authorised person under the Road Safety Act. In terms of question 2, I understand that the property you manage entered into a private parking agreement, as you've said, in September 2017 to assist the owners in managing their visitor car parking. I note that Council received correspondence in November with regards to the monitoring of that parking, and the Manager, Health and Local Laws, Natasha Swan, responded to your correspondence and advised that Council would continue to patrol this location in order to improve parking compliance and offered to discuss any further issues with you. To this end, I've now requested Ms Swan to contact you directly to discuss your concerns in more detail. Our council records indicate that we have issued 79 tickets within the Hepburn Road area since the introduction of the private parking agreement, and that many of these, no doubt, include infringements issued within 20 Hepburn Road.
In actual fact, we have CCTV in our car park, and we could probably give you the dates that there was someone there, and it's not very regularly. I understand that you do have minimal parking officers at your availability and ours, but it's something that you might want to consider in the future because you have a lot of big buildings going up in this municipality.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for your attendance. Admission of urgent business. There are no items of urgent business. Planning permit applications. Item 9. There are no planning permit applications. Item 10. Planning and environment. There are no planning and environment reports. 11.1. Templestowe Park Tennis Club extension variation of lease. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Kleinert.
That the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Kleinert.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think this is a great project. It's a part of our, we've had it budgeted in, and this will allow the facilities to be upgraded to be compliant. That will include toilet upgrades for women, for men, all accessible, all abilities, and I think it's a wonderful club in our community. They do a wonderful service. It's a beautiful facility, and I think it's a great investment on a local community, and I think this really should be supported. If I think of the hundreds of young people that play, and it gets them off the streets, keeps them in sport and healthy, this is part of keeping our facilities up to date and, well, compliant, and that's most important. So I ask that we'd all be in favour of moving that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kleinert. Councillor Goff.
No, Mr Mayor.
Would anyone else like to comment? Thank you, Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I have to say that I fully support upgrading our community facilities, for example, our sports grounds. And this is consistent with our council plan and our healthy city strategy. But we are also accountable to our ratepayers and residents. And we need to demonstrate that our capital works expenditure meet budget expectations. And I know that the allocation of capital budget for this particular project, if I remember it correctly, is $180,000. The figure was published on the council's website and also on the Management Matters. But now, in this particular item, we have $280,000. I just wondering whether there is a reason for the difference. That is my question. But of course, I fully support the upgrading. Just want to know the reason between the two figures. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to answer your question, Councillor Chan, our budget for this year, for this financial year for the Tennis Club is $280,000. So it's $280,000 that we've budgeted for the project.
No. Okay. So that figure, I suppose, is updated as $280,000, not as mentioned in the Management Matters and the...
I'm not sure. The report that I have and our spreadsheet, our capital works project, nominates it at $280,000.
Yeah. Perhaps we can get some clarification on that at a later date. Thank you. Sorry. Does anyone else like to comment? I put that motion. The recommendation be adopted. Those for? Thank you. It's passed unanimously. There are item 12, community programs. There are no community program reports. Item 13, shared services. There are no shared services reports. Item 14.1, appointment of authorised officers, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover for that motion? Thank you, councillor.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Chen. Councillor Zafiropoulos?
No,
Nothing to add? Councillor Chen?
Well, just briefly say that I believe that the 8 officers are among the best of our, the best in this field, and the community has very high expectations on our planning officers. So I'm sure that the appointments will produce very high standard quality of work and also excellent customer service.
Thank you, councillor Chen. Any other councillors? I put that motion. Those for? It's passed unanimously. Item 4.2, record of assembly of councillors. Do I have a mover for that? Thank you, councillor Piccinini.
Thank you. I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Haynes. Councillor Piccinini?
Nothing to add. Mr.
Councillor
Mayor.
Haynes? Anyone else? No. I put that motion. Those for? Thank you. Passed unanimously again. Item 14.3, documents for sealing. Do I have a mover?
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you, councillor Haynes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McLeish, thank you. Councillor Haynes.
Nothing to add.
Councillor McLeish.
Nothing, Mr Mayor.
Any further comments? Thank you. I put that motion. Those for? And adopted unanimously. Thank you. Item 15, notices of motion. Item 15.1, notice of motion by councillor Haynes. Sorry. Do I have a mover? Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I move an alternative motion, and so I will read it out even though the other councillors do have it. That council requests the CEO to prepare a detailed report assessment with itemised costs associated with the relocation of the former St John's Church in or adjacent to the site known as Schramm's Cottage. B, that council receive the quotation delivered to the Mayor by the Historical Society of Doncaster Templestowe in relation to this matter and take this into account in the preparation for the report assessment. C, include in the report assessment an update on the works undertaken by council in response to the council resolution of March 2017 at item 15.1, that council requests that officers prepare a feasibility report for council that considers alternative options for a structure or in adjacent to the site known as Schramm's Cottage. And D, make the report assessment available by the end of March 2018.
Thank you, councillor Haynes. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, councillor Chen. Assume you'd like to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this motion is an amended motion from the previous one that was tabled last September, that was put together because of the difficulty that people were feeling and council was feeling as far as communication went. The community's been asking for a report on this issue. So there are facts from specialists and professionals in what we deserve as councillors. To give the community. I hear rumours, lies, excuses, and opinions. They're like armpits and they stink. I have been part of a very long process with this. Knowing what we can and can't be done is important to me. Meeting with many groups, individuals and specialists and professionals and collectively sharing information is necessary for me to be able to make an informed decision on behalf of the community. So I ask that as councillors and local government officials that we have too much that we cannot affect And this is one of the things that we can affect. This is one of the few things that we can. We're responsible for what this community has and doesn't have as far as facilities go, and we've already mentioned one. And also what it comes to the historical preservation of Manningham, not the state of the federal government. We cannot shift the responsibility of these matters. Communication and consultation are words that I hear all the time, and transparency, feasibility, and as a business person, I always like to know what is and isn't possible in plain words. This request is just requesting to achieve that. So with my practical thinking, it's, you know, I just want to know what is possible, how much it's going to cost, whether it can be afforded, what are the benefits, what are the reasons to do it, why, if not, why not? And this report request is going to make everyone well informed on all around the organisation and as far as councillors goes, and also hopefully for the community. As a councillors, I ask you all for your full support on this simple request. Thank you.
Councillor Chen. Sorry. Councillor Chen.
My point is just plain simple. The community has sent a strong message to us. They want to preserve and relocate St. John's Church. And they have been working very hard to achieve this. As Councillor Han just mentioned about there are information collected and codes collected or whatever. So this amendment just asks for those information to be sent and to be considered by the officers to produce a detailed information, and then everybody can be well informed. And council has the experience and expertise. The community has the passion and determination. We can collectively work out a project plan, including how to utilize the allocated funds from council, how to address funding shortfalls, and how to resolve any contingency issues during any process, and set time frame. That is important, time frame, to make it happen. Fellow councillors, we always think things in a very difficult ways, and this is just plain simple. Collect information and make informed decisions. I ask your support for this amendment motion. We need to come up with a kickstart. The community and our St. John's Church could no longer afford any further delay. Manningham Council needs to demonstrate to the community that we respect our history and our heritage. Council has a can-do attitude and is willing to work with the community. Please, councillors, please support this amended motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Are there any speakers against? Councillor Bashani.
Mr Mayor, I don't seek to speak against this motion. I seek to move a motion to amend the alternative motion. And my proposed amendment is as follows. That paragraphs B, C and D are struck out. And in relation to paragraph A, it reads as follows. That council requests the CEO to prepare a report with costs associated with the relocation of the former St. John's Church in or adjacent to the site known as Schramm's Cottage, and include it in the Schramm's Cottage feasibility report currently being prepared by council. I seek to move this amendment to the alternative motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bashani. Do I have a seconder for that amendment?
Yes.
Yes. Councillor McLeish. I'll take speakers for and against the amendment. Sorry.
Mr Mayor?
Sorry.
May I speak in favour of
Excuse me,
my
Mr Mayor.
motion?
Could the mover be
Oh,
offered the opportunity
Mr.
to
Mayor.
accept or reject the
Yeah.
amendment?
Okay,
Mr
thank
Mayor,
you.
yeah, I'd like to speak.
My apologies,
on
thank
that.
you. I'll just list.
So, just,
Councillor Haynes, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I will allow the mover, Councillor Haynes, to speak about whether she would be prepared to accept that amendment or not.
thank you, Mr Mayor. So, Councillor Piccinini, just, your A
Mr Mayor,
does
sorry.
include
Point-
C, is that correct?
It's a yes or a no?
No, I'm sorry.
It's got to be,
Okay, I'm just
Coun-
confused, because it
Councillor
looks
Haynes,
like
yes.
A and C are together, and that's exactly, and that's why I'm, that's correct.
just for clarifications, could I ask
You want to
Councillor
read it again?
Yes,
I can
Read it
read
again and then
Just-
you'll...
Yes.
Councillor Haynes, thank you. Just listen, let's all listen very carefully. Councillor Piccinini, thank you.
Making the motion a lot simpler. The motion I'm proposing is that we keep paragraph A, that we delete paragraphs B, C and D, and paragraph A will read as follows. That council requests the CEO to prepare a report with costs associated with the relocation of the former St John's Church in or adjacent to the site known as Shram's Cottage, and include it in the Shram's Cottage feasibility report currently being prepared by council.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. Councillor Haynes, again,
Thank you.
and a yes or no answer to whether you'll accept that amendment.
Mr Mayor, yes, but with D added. There you go.
I'll take that as a no.
But it's only one little line that says make it available.
So just to remind the councillors, what we'll do is discuss this amendment
Okay.
and then we'll take a vote on that. Thank you, and I still have a seconder for that original motion, sorry, the amended motion from Councillor McLeish. So Councillor Piccinini.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, my proposed amendment to the alternative, in my submission, makes the motion very simple and directive, and it's best to keep things simple. In relation to paragraph D, I'm seeking to strike that out because it's just, in my view, unclear what take this into account means. How would the council be asked to take the quotation into account? It's unclear. They are professionals, and how they prepare this report is determined by their expertise.
Sorry, just to clarify, item D was actually make the...
B. I was talking about B. Sorry, can
just...
I say D instead of B? Oh, I'm
Don't-
sorry.
Yeah.
I apologise for that.
But we're
In
refusing
relation
part
to,
D, yeah.
we're refusing B. My proposal is to strike out B, C and D. In relation to why to strike out B, the words take this into account is unclear. It's not, in my submission, it's a grey area, and it could cause potential conflict. In relation to paragraph C, my proposed amendment in a sense incorporates paragraph C. And in relation to D and the time frame of being the end of March, the feasibility report into Shram's Cottage that is currently being prepared, I understand will come to council in some form in the very near future, in February. And so there is, in a sense, a time frame around this request.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. Councillor McLeish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, to me this is all very simple, and the original motion I have grave concerns about. It's been quite directive and quite specific. It's specifying timelines, but we have officers who already have a large number of projects underway. If we direct them to do things within specific timeframes, projects get delayed. Other projects worth many millions of dollars with resources in production, in flight, underway, get held up to produce another report on the relocation of this building. I don't believe we should be specifying a time frame. We should allow the officers to do their job professionally, manage the resources. If it comes in March or it comes in April, I don't see what the difference is. This building's been sitting on this site for over a decade, 20, 30, I don't know how many years has it been on that site. It's been sitting with this is the building we don't even own, ladies and gentlemen. We don't even own this building. We're talking about a building that belongs to someone else on someone else's land. I don't see the great urgency for us to suddenly decide, having deferred this motion for 3 months, to decide we now have to have it in 6 weeks and delay other work from officers. It will come from the officers when it comes, when they've had a chance to do a considered piece of work and a professional piece of work in the time frame that it takes. If they need 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, fine. I'm good with that. Let them do their job professionally in a time frame which is sensible. And if we are going to consider a proposition to relocate the church, then it's going to have to be based on a process that will withstand probity. A process that is based on information that is factual, drawn from professional quotations provided to council. And to suggest that officers should be, as point B does in my opinion, suggest they should take into account a quotation provided to another organisation for one portion of the works, I'm sorry, I cannot support a motion that directs officers to do such. We have to withstand probity in the actions of this council and in the way we direct officers. There is no circumstance under which I will support point B. If a motion goes forward with that, I will move to have this entire motion struck out. And I am foreshadowing that.
Thank you, Councillor McLeish.
Thank you.
Are there any speakers against the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
I thank Councillor McLeish for his comments. Don't agree with all of them, saying that we're directing officers in any way. They need to be based on facts, which is specialists and things. Urgency and suddenly, well, I don't know about urgency, but I doubt that this has been an urgent matter. It has been something addressed. But if the other councillors around the table do believe that D is unimportant because over a period of the next 8 to 12 weeks we may get it based on the CEO's work on doing this, because I'm certain that the CEO also doesn't want this continually being brought up. So I'm okay with having D not put in if this motion amendment to my amendment that's been put up by Councillor Piccinini has an opportunity to fail, because I would see that us coming to some sort of agreement is going to help us move forward.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Any more speakers for the amendment?
I'd like to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I rise to just speak to this particular amendment, and I suppose in doing so I'm also going to be referring to the original motion. Again, I think we're in a position where councillors around this table are ill-prepared to make decisions on this because of lack of knowledge and information. Indeed, this was forecast and postponed, and I have to say, for 3 months or more, a long time ago, and so council has had that sitting on the books, the original motion sitting on its books for quite some time, where we could have, in the last 3 months, actually had discussions around the table about this and about what future it was going to get. But again, we're coming here tonight, everyone pretty well ill-prepared for it. But I do agree with some things here. I do disagree with a contention that we don't put time limits on things or timelines on things. Council does. Council has the power to direct things and timelines on it. We do it all the time. This is not an original thing. It happens all the time. Do we direct people to read things? Yes, we do. Every time someone comes in here with a petition or whatever, we direct it to the officers for their report on that petition, okay? So we do direct, we do all of those things. The wording of the first part, I'm a bit concerned with, it might have changed, but to request the CEO. It's usually that council does these things. Are we actually requesting the CEO to prepare this, or are we requesting council to prepare it? The CEO will ensure that it gets prepared, but is the word still CEO or is it council?
It is.
No, I'm not asking.
So, sorry, it's what Paul, sorry, councillor Piccinini, could you just reread the motion? Councillor Goff, would you just like to see?
I did say that council request the CEO to prepare, but I'm assuming in that motion that the CEO will direct the officers to prepare.
Thank you, councillor Piccinini.
I'm sure it is,
Councillor
but I
Goff.
just think in good wording of motions, we're requesting the council to do that work, and the CEO will direct it. But again, I'm here having to make a decision on something that I feel ill-prepared to do so. You see, we've had 3 months, and in those 3 months, there's been a quotation. And I haven't been able to see that quotation, and the council haven't been able to see that quotation. And I do believe, Mr Mayor, you were the only one that has actually seen that quotation. And you know, if we're having to discuss things here on the floor, I hope that we can be a little bit more open about what we do and a little bit more upfront in what we do and share that information so we can have those discussions beforehand. And 3 months ago, when people were asking to look at the quotation, it was readily available for people to see, which it wasn't. And so, you know, I'm compelled to vote here on something again, and I do believe there could be a time put on it. I'm not fussed about the time of directing something to be done. And in fact, quite honestly, we actually want this finished before we consider the report about what we're doing about the whole of that area around Schramm's Cottage. So in actual fact, this needs to come out before council makes any decisions with the whole lot of Schramm's Cottage, which is going to mean that that whole reports can come to council and councillors for discussion, but before anything comes to council, you know, otherwise it's just a farce what we're doing here, you know. So we really need to actually delay the outcome of the consideration of what we do at Schramm's Reserve until this is actually done. Now, I don't know how we get around that with other amendments, whether we have to be as that prescriptive, whether we have to be that prescriptive and descriptive, but for goodness sakes, we need to improve on the wording of our motions and what we move.
Thank you, councillor Goff. Is there any other speakers for or against?
A question.
Councillor Safarov, please.
I'd like to ask the CEO or an officer to advise whether the March deadline is a feasible one, or whether April or February or... I'm also thinking that we need to expedite this decision, but I'm asking, are we imposing upon you an unreasonable deadline?
Could I ask the CEO to respond purely in response to the proposed amendment and the timeline for that, the amended motion, which is not in the amendment?
Best endeavours to achieve the time frame. Stepping a little bit outside of your direction, Mayor, if you won't mind. There is a briefing for councillors taking place on February the 6th, in line with the existing resolution of council, which was passed on the 28th of March 2017, which is talking about alternative options in the area around Schramm's Cottage. It's unlikely that we will be able to have any form of itemised costings available at that time. However, at least we'll be able to have a discussion on February the 6th on the overall strategy in the area, and we will then expedite as quickly as we can the other itemised costings.
Thank you.
I've got a question,
CEO?
Mr Mayor. My question is that if that's the case, there's nothing going to be prepared for council, for a council motion with regard to anything that's going to happen in that precinct of Schramm's Cottage and that historical precinct for a decision of council in February. Anything to do with that will be much later in the year.
I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Yes, that's
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions before I put the amendment to the councillors? I'll put the amendment. Sorry, thank you. Councillor Piccinini, would you like to close?
don't know that you do.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
You don't get it on a...
Thank you. Is that's
Thank you.
just clarifying? Thanks.
All right.
Okay, I'll put that motion as it is, at the amendment, as it is, to the floor. Those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you.
Now we need to vote.
Right, now the amendment is the substantive motion. And Councillor Piccinini, as mover.
You vote for this one, so it's all considered.
So I will read the motion out again, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
That council requests the CEO to prepare a report with costs associated with relocation of the former St John's Church in or adjacent to the site known as Shram's Cottage. Do I need to speak slowly or shall I read? No. Okay, and include it in the Shram's Cottage feasibility report currently being prepared by council.
Thank you, Councillor Piccinini. Now that that is a substantive motion, my understanding is that we restart the process. Is that my understanding? Is that correct? So that means, sorry, do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor McLeish. Councillor Piccinini.
I don't need to speak further to this motion, Mr Mayor.
Councillor McLeish.
Nothing to add, Mr Mayor.
Would anyone like to, any further?
Speaker against?
Thank you, Councillor Haynes.
Thank you. Thank you, fellow councillors. I totally like the fact that we are now discussing this issue at length, and I would like to see more of it and sharing of information. There is a lot more information to be shared, including the great things that Councillor Goff has mentioned as far as paperwork and quotes and things. And yes, there should have been further discussion way before the last couple of weeks with some people, and I'm looking forward to the community being able to have further discussion. The community groups and the specialists that specialise in this type of work would love to have an informed roundtable discussion. And then I'm hoping that we end up with further community consultation moving forward. And I just want to take this opportunity to say that setting a date and doing and putting forward the intention of my motion is what Councillor Piccinini's motion is also achieving, but not with the care and concern that has been put into the amended motion that I've already tabled, and also the other detail that has been expressed by fellow councillors. So I would like my fellow councillors to support my amended motion, and I take this opportunity to thank my fellow councillors that they all seem to agree with the intent of my motion.
Thank you, Councillor Haynes. Is there any further speakers for or against? Any further questions? Sorry, Councillor Chen.
May I? Now, this is the sustained motion
Correct.
put up by Councillor Piccinini. And I think that we all have the good intention to move on and just to close this issue as soon as we can. And we try just, at this moment, just try to get information. And I understand Councillor Piccinini's intention is to keep it simple. But my concern is the community has done a lot of work and have provided some sort of information. I do think that in terms of community engagement, we should take it into consideration, and this is why B's intention is here. And why I would like to have a time frame, we are not, I think that it is very serious to say that we are directing officers, which we are not. And the time frame here is to get inspiration and also give guidance to the officer. And they have a lot of things to be done, I understand, and they are very busy. But by providing a time frame, they can better channel what they are going to do and just to compare with other priorities, and then they will be better, and that they can have their jobs better done. I mean, they provide us better information. And that is why I appreciate Councillor Piccinini's simple solutions, but I would rather seek informations proposed by Councillor Heng that cover everything that is considered to be important in terms of time frame and community engagements. Thank you.
Councillor Chen. Any other speakers for or against? I'll put the now substantive motion as read several times by Councillor Piccinini to the floor. Those for? That's carried. Those against? Sorry, I'll take my hand out. Let's say again. Those against? Noted abstention.
Can't abstain.
Oh, did he? Sorry.
No,
Do you vote?
abstaining.
Okay. Right. Sorry, my apologies. Councillor Zafiropoulos. That motion is carried.
Division.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes, division. Those in favour? Councillor Kleiner, for. Sorry. Councillor Zafiropoulos. Councillor Goff. Councillor McLeish. Councillor Piccinini. Councillor Conlon. Those against? Councillor Chen. Councillor Haynes. Thank you.
Question, Mr Mayor. If that motion lost, if that amendment or that substantive motion lost, then there would have been no motion to have done anything with regard to trams, and the former motion would have stayed. So voting against that amendment meant that the whole subject was dropped.
Thanks, Councillor Goff. It's a hypothetical, so let's not get into a debate about that.
Motion would have then been tabled.
Oh, no,
Thanks.
it was debated.
No.
It was debated and gone.
Yours is gone.
It would have been all gone. So by voting against it, it means the whole subject would have been gone and never come back up to this again unless you
For 3
can use the 3 months unless you bring up a new motion.
That's right.
Thanks for the education and
That's what.
Part of further discussion probably could have happened way before now, before we got
That's what
here.
would have happened. That's what would have happened if we voted against that amended motion.
thanks, Councillor Goff. Thanks, councillors. Now, sorry, item 16, urgent business. I don't think I thought I've been there. There are no items of urgent business. Item 17, councillors' question time. Any councillors' questions? Councillor Goff.
Mr Mayor, my question is, I suppose, coming from a number of people in Manningham that are getting the NBN put in as we speak, and it's going around. And there have been a number of questions of the speed and the service. And indeed, people are finding it very hard to find out what sort of service they get. They say a hybrid service. I'm just wondering if we could, as a council, write to, in the future, write to NBN or whatever, and seek clarification, if we can get it on individual addresses, of what exact sort of NBN is applied to individuals' houses. Because is it, and how far away from a node is their house or whatever? Because people are getting concerned. There have been areas of Bulleen that have not had telephone services for some time. Now, I know it's not council's job to actually run the NBN and that, but it is to represent a community and ensuring, and if we're not getting the best level of service, or if it could be improved, whether we could advocate on behalf of the people to those people. So I'm wondering if we're able to look into that, perhaps raise it at the next SBS meeting and find out whether we can write and on behalf of the community, because it is something that a number of people have raised. I'm telling them that it's not a council position. However, it's very difficult for them to actually get through to the NBN and talk to them, and then they cannot get an exact answer of what sort of service they are receiving, whether it's a hybrid, what standard of speed is on that hybrid and whatever, and what sort is it to the node or is it to the house? So,
Thank you, councillor Goff. We'll take that up. Any further questions? Thank you, councillors. Confidential reports. Consideration of key to the city. Do I have a mover?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I move that council close the meeting to the public pursuant to section 89, subsection 2H of the Local Government Act 1989 to consider item 8.1, which relates to any other matter that council considers would prejudice council or any person.
Thank you, councillor Piccini. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, councillor McLeish. I declare the meeting now closed to the public.
Vote?
Sorry,
Vote?
sorry, thank you. I will take a vote on that motion. Those for? That's carried unanimously, thank you.